Hi guys, how are you doing? Welcome to the channel, Plaster Master Smurf 74. We've been going for a couple of months now, and I'm just this weekend just doing a couple of reruns of some theory lessons that I've done when we first sort of started up. We've been talking about these ripples and the structure of plaster. So this is one that you might have missed if you're new to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please do have a look through the playlist. There's loads and loads of stuff on there now. But in the meantime, have a quick look at this one. I think it's worth watching. Alright guys, how the devil are you? I'm going to do a little theory about ripples in your plastering and how to deal with them. But just quickly before we do that, just like to say a big thank you. We've only been doing these videos for a couple of weeks now, I mean, I've not really used the YouTube channel that much, yeah, in the last week or so, we've got like 300 subscribers. So if you're finding these videos are helpful, we're looking to do a few more in the future. We've got quite a few up at the moment. But yeah, thank you for subscribing and liking, and if you're thinking it's helping you with your plastering, then please do like and subscribe, and we'll carry on doing what we're doing. Right, so like I say, I want to deal with talking about ripples in your wall and how to deal with them. So let's get into it, shall we? So here we have our surface that we're going to plaster. Okay, so it's a cut into the wall. This is a horizontal lump going all the way across the wall. Okay, so when we put our plaster on here, this is probably what's going to happen. Okay, this is all full of particles, some bigger, some smaller. They're going to get really thin here, and now they're getting quite big, and a little bit more spaced about. At the moment we're at 1 minute old for this coat of plaster, and then that makes it, say, for argument's sake, these numbers are not literal, just as a demonstration, 1% set. So it's 1% towards going to its total hardness. And what's happening is we've got gravity pulling down on this. Okay, so all these heavy particles, so the particles, big particles, you've got small particles, and then it's all full of water and gypsum, and that's causing this to sag under its own weight. Okay, it's going really thin there, and then it's just hanging there. Okay, so what we need to do is not play with that. Okay, because what's going to happen is if you start playing with this whilst it's at 1 minute 1% flat, these particles, the bigger particles, are going to start hitting the hard surface that we're plastering. Okay, and we're going to keep going over it and playing with it and playing with it. I mean, you can play with it as much as you like when it's at 1%. It's not going to change. We need to let it pick up. I mean, if you was ever fortunate enough, like me, to have a rather sort of like passionate Gordon Ramsay style old school teacher, I mean, he used to threaten if I was playing with the wall trying to get it flat, he'd threaten to come in with a barrel of straw and smoke me off the wall. So I don't know if you guys have heard that one before. So what's going to happen is, if we keep playing with this at this point, these larger particles are going to start hitting the wall, the hard surface that we're plastering, and they're going to start locking together. So you've got one particle hitting the wall, another particle is hitting that, and then it's just going to build up. And these are starting to become unmovable now because they're so tightly packed together. And then what's going to happen is, because these big particles get pushed, they're going to push all these tiny little particles to the surface. Okay, so you're losing the integrity of the structure of the plaster. So by pushing all these little particles up to the top and all these locking together, this is even more unmanageable. The sag is getting even worse and worse and worse. So we don't want to do that. We need to wait. Let's just rub that out. So we're going to get to, 10 minutes and then 10% flat set. So we had this going on. Now these particles are as even as they can be. Okay, now we've left it to pick up a little bit. The effect of the gravity is much less. Now it's starting to hold itself together. So now we've got a chance to try and shape it a little bit. So then we'll flatten in and we'll be able to reduce it. And we'll be able to reduce it a lot more easier because the particles have stayed spaced out, okay? And we're able to tell them what to do now, rather than them doing what they want to do and locking in together. So now we've got more ability to get that a lot flatter, okay? Now depending on the severity, you know, you might need to dub it out first, but we'll get into that in a second. So now when we put our second coat on, our top laying coat, we're going to go on a lot thinner, okay? Which means we've kind of ironed this out a bit, and we're putting our top coat on much more regulated, okay? So if this is now at 20 minutes and 20% set, this is now 1 minute and 1% set. So the particles have got much less room for the particles to bounce around, and then all we're going to do is see that through to the end. Now you might need to put 3 coats on it, it's up to you. And of course if you've got a horizontal lump in the wall like that, say for instance a work surface has been taken out the wall or something, and there's a big long chase going sideways or whatever, continuing to plaster with your trowel coming downwards like this is not the way. You're going to have to take the time at one point to come across it like this, so you're easing it out. Okay, and then the next, so you're going to be coming across like this, just for that one section, rather than up and down, which is the general movement. Okay, so let's have a look at the opposite of that. So this time we got our surface, instead of a lump, we've got a big hole in it. There's a chase. So what's going to happen now is we apply our coat of plaster, and then this is going to happen. Again, the larger particles in here are hitting the hard surface, and they're kind of trying to cascade over. Okay, we're at 1% set. This is what's happening. It's sagging under its own weight again. Just leave it alone. You can't stop plastering it, stop touching it, let it pick up. Remember it's there. You've just plastered it, you know it, you can see it. Remember it's there, you're going to have to address that. Go off and do another wall, do something, put another wall on, whatever, then come back to it. Then we get to our 10%, and then we're able to manipulate that a little bit better because it's holding itself, okay? And it's completely up to you. You might need to flatten it in a couple of times, depends what it is. And then again, our top surface goes on a lot thinner, and we're able to regulate and make a nice job of it. So let's rub these out for a second. I mean, that's quite self-explanatory. So let's have, so we're in the ceiling now and we're looking down the wall. Okay, we've got a lump here, we've got a deficit here. Okay, let's rub these out. Okay, so it's a cutaway. So now our lump is coming all the way down the wall, our chase, our hole, our dip is going all the way up the hole, and we're in the ceiling looking down, okay? So when we apply our plaster, and these are easier to deal with because they're going in that direction, but what's going to happen is here, you are going to get something more like this happening here, and then where it gets thin again, it's going to hold it in, and then it's going to bulge out, because these are the two areas, and the gravity's going this way, okay, because we're looking from the top. So then we need to let this pick up to 10% before we can start ironing these out in the first coat. When we get to this point, what's going to happen here, because it's a hole, this is going to happen. It's going to kind of invert itself, because all the weight of all these together is trying to make it sag outwards. Again, let it pick up. So I think the main principle of trying to sort out ripples in particular is don't play with the plaster too much, because as a general rule really, when you get it on, when you get it in at 1%, get it as flat as you can, leave it alone, leave it to pick up. When you've got big ripples like that, then you need to pay attention to where they are, and you need to adapt your trowel movement to accommodate what's happening on with the plaster and how the gravity is affecting it. And then as you go on through the wall, you can plane it out, plane it out, and plane it out. If, for instance, you've got the time to do it and nobody's breathing down your neck to get things done, there's our hole. Oh, sorry, there's our sticky out one, and there's our hole. So what we need to do now is, because we've got time to do it and they're so severe, I mean, you're getting into, if this deficit here, the lump is sticking out more than say 5 millimeters, if that's deeper than 5 millimeters, then really you're gonna have to start addressing that with something other than multi-finish. You're gonna have to go to your base coats like bonding or hardwood or something like that, because it's designed to deal with those depths. It's a lot lighter in weight, okay, and the structure's different. So what you'll do with your trowel, I've got a little trowel here, you'll use the length of your trowel to dub it out. So again, we've gone back to sideways, we're going this way. So with the length of your trowel, you squish the gear on, let's just draw that there, and you squish the gear on here. Okay, so we've got that going on. Now this is, you're going to go around the room and do all that on all your little ripples and everything. So it's going to be completely reduced. So this is at, for argument's sake, hold on a minute, so the next coat we go on, you might have something a little bit more like that going on, and then when your top coat goes on, we're more controllable. This will be, say, this first coat, your dubbing out coat, let's say be 50% set, this will be 10, and then this is 1%, and obviously that stays in relation to itself all the way through to seeing it through to the end. This, if it's a hole, then your trowel will tend to go on a lot flatter, and these are probably easier to get out. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. Probably will sag a little bit, but then again, 50, your next coat, it's not sagging now, and then your top coat goes over the top of that. I think that's probably about it. As I say, this is probably intended for newcomers, beginner plasterers, DIYers. Any decent plasterer will be like all over this, and you don't really need my advice on that one. So yeah, very quick one. Thanks again very much for watching. If you did like it, please subscribe. There's a certain number of subscribers you need to get on in YouTube, so I found out, to be able to unlock other features and stuff like that, and I'd like to be able to do that, so please do, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks very much for watching.